G'day, you legendary ladies and gentlemen. Thank you as always for stopping by. With me today is a lovely friend of the show. He does a lot of things like I do. He's a social media strategist, for one, over at Saul Recruitment. He is also a photographer and tutor at the Aperture Club, and he runs his very own podcast, just like the lovely one we're doing right here. It's called Playing with Perspective. Playing with Perspective, I think I'm right. It's suspended animation, so I'll put a link in there. Make sure you check it out. I was actually a guest on there couple of months ago. I had the pleasure of chatting with Darren and sharing a bit of my story, and wanted to invite him back on to do much the same today. So thanks for dropping by, mate.
It's an absolute pleasure being here. Thanks for having me on the show, man. Really appreciate it.
Man, likewise, mate. Likewise. It's cool to meet someone not just in the podcasting space, but someone that has different avenues of interest that they are pursuing fervently as well, right? Because reading your rap sheet, man, like you're involved in a lot of things as well, huh?
My rap sheet, I love that. Yeah, I think I'm one of those people that I get bored if I do the same thing every day for too long. I need variety. So I love to do things long term, but I've started adding in a few different things so that I'm doing a few different things long term, and that keeps the variety going.
I like that. You sort of go to this one for a bit, go back to this one, and just as the wheels keep turning. How did you get into these spaces, mate? Was it something that straight out of school you realized I'm a creative, I want to be in these creative fields, or was it a slow burn? You know, how did you get started?
Yeah, man, it's a really interesting story. So I studied, I actually studied pharmacy. So I practiced as a pharmacist for a few years, but then I realized I'm more of a people person. You know, that's really not going to be for me forever. And then I ended up going into recruitment, and I still work in recruitment, as you mentioned, to this day, in IT recruitment. But at school, I also studied a lot of photography. And about 7-8 years ago, I thought to myself, I need a hobby. I need to get back into my creative side and express my creative side a little bit more. And so I took up photography again. I bought a kit camera from JB Hi-Fi, bought a very basic Nikon with a couple of lenses. And then I enrolled in loads of courses, and I just became obsessed. And when I was meant to be doing other things, I was on the street doing street photography. I was in Chinatown. I was, to this day, I still, not as much in COVID, but I'm hanging to go back. I used to go to Cabramatta because I love to just photograph natural environments and subcultures. And so I really took to photography, and I went further and further into it. I did more courses. I bought more gear, as you do, and I started doing a lot of photography work professionally. So I do work, I do a lot of functions, I do headshots, I do, private and corporate stuff. And so that was the creative aspect of me that allowed me to be expressed again. And then through that journey, I started getting into marketing because I realized that, to really market a business these days, you have to really get comfortable with digital. You have to get comfortable with social media, with podcasting. You have to get your message out there in the digital space, because the old days of the yellow pages or the white pages or the, banner ads or letter drops or knocking on doors, cold calling, that doesn't work anymore. So I thought, all right, the digital space is where it's at. And I just dived in. And then the interesting thing is, because you understand, or you started to dabble in one digital principle or one digital discipline, which is photography, I could make the transition a bit easier into podcasting and video, and because the language is the same. Whether you're dealing with audio, video, photo, the digital language is quite similar. So I could kind of, with some help and with some people that I got some tutoring from, and I did some courses and read a lot of books and did a lot of study, but I made that transition reasonably seamlessly. Not, I'm not an expert, but I learned a lot, and I just love the creative side. So I have my foot in a few different camps, and I just love expressing myself creatively through a lot of these avenues. And then I like working in the corporate world as well. So I just love the variety.
I love that, man. No, I think you hit that nail on the head too, right? It's about expression. Photography. I'm not a photographer myself. I'm flat out taking a selfie. I've always been fascinated by it though, mate. So maybe it's a conversation we can have one day. I feel like I'd get caught up in it too much. So it'd become the new hobby, right? We were talking just before we started recording about
Yeah.
my hobby on the side at the moment being poker. So I'm going to stick to one at a time. Otherwise, I'd
Yeah.
buy the camera and I'd be like, I'm gonna find down then this avenue for however long it takes me down there. But
Absolutely, man. But you're a
expression,
creative.
right?
You play music. You write. You're a creative as well.
And similar to you, I think I sort of took the usual, I'll say usual path, but the path that we're encouraged to take usually is that sort of more academic standard. For me, it was getting a trade, like so straight out of school, got myself a trade and thought, oh, well, I'm getting paid, I'm still learning something. There's nothing wrong with it. But eventually got to the point where I was about maybe 24, 25-ish when I was like, shit, man, I'm a creative, right? Oh crap, I didn't see that come. That came and bit me in the bum, didn't it? It's like, well, I got to do something with it, right? And slowly but surely, here we are.
Yeah, so I mean, I just love it. I think it's fascinating, and I love hearing other people's stories, other creative stories. And I'm always watching documentaries as well lately on different actors and musicians and artists to see their journey and see how they progressed from where they started to where they ended up, and I find that fascinating as well.
Yeah, me and you both, mate. Have you got any to share? Because I've heard some wild and wacky
man.
stories.
I mean, there's some great ones. Like I watched the Johnny Depp documentary the other day, which was absolutely brilliant, and he's such a talent. There's a great documentary on Quincy Jones, which is fantastic, and you see how his career built and transpired through many, many different things. It's fascinating. Who else have I listened to lately? Oh man, on Netflix you can go to town. There's so many different great documentaries of different artists and different people.
Go to YouTube as well, right? I find myself getting lost in the YouTube hole many a different time where you just go, learn about this person, whether it's like you said, well-known actors, or everyone's got a story, but right, and it's very similar to what your podcast is about too. I mean, here we sort of go, we'll just rock up and talk like we have today, but it's the expression is the same, right? Where it's like everyone's got a story, everyone's got a perspective, and let's share from that and involve each other in our own stories.
So true, man. Really, really. And another podcast that I'm listening to a lot is a podcast called WTF. And I'll let everybody else fill in the last word.
We swear on here, man. That's fine. You can say if you want. That's cool.
And there's an American comedian called Mark Maron.
Yeah, I know Mark Maron.
He's fantastic, and he's an actor as well. But he interviews all the greatest stars, actors, comedians, musicians, directors, and you hear their story of when they started, how they grew up, their family life, to how they became who they became. And I love listening. And he goes for like an hour and a half. He's fantastic.
Yeah, I'll have to check him out, man, because I'm a fan of his stand-up. I haven't seen his podcast. I didn't know he had one, to be honest.
Yeah, he's got a podcast, very famous podcast. He's been going for about 10 years more.
That's wow.
He's got that much stuff that you can go back to. He's interviewed everybody. And all the latest actors and directors that are producing or promoting a current film, they're on the show promoting the film.
Right. No, I'll have to definitely suss it out. I know the one for me that pretty much got me into the podcasting space was the great Joe Rogan, right? Who's most people know of, right? He's like the biggest one. But he's had some incredible guests on too with stories. Like I remember one that sticks out is Quentin Tarantino's one. If you've seen him, he's a fascinating dude. He's such a quirky character anyway. Right? Oh, very quirky. Wow. Just so many different things, but he's just telling the stories of when he's first starting out, and this is pre-Pulp Fiction. This is like in the early days when nothing's really manifested yet. And so he's going to all these different indie film festivals and just spending the whole day watching films. And you can see the passion. I know obviously it's just like 30 years now since he's, been back there, right? But you can tell the way he's telling the story. He had the passion there as well. And that's what you see like transgress for most of these people, right? To get to that level, the passion has to be there, right? And it's really cool to see that same passion with you as well, mate, in these spaces that you're exploring as well,
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. And with Tarantino as well, I love his command of music. He has the most incredible understanding of music genre, and he always chooses the coolest music in his films. He's got a real passion for music.
Kill Bill, right? That's the classic.
Yeah. Oh man.
No honor for, I can't remember the name, but it's that real cool.
Yep.
Yeah,
Really cool stuff.
yeah,
Yeah.
gritty,
I love him.
gritty
Yep.
stuff. And a storyteller as well, right? As someone that
Yeah.
really loves the storytelling craft, he has this. I mean, I'm not an expert on movies by no means, but again, listening to him and what he's talking about back in those days, it's like he was really a pioneer on the scene, right? In this way of storytelling that's combining all these different arcs across time. And you watch Pulp Fiction, that's what's happening, right? You've got Bruce Willis's narrative, you've got John and Sam's narrative, and all these ones are overlapping, and it just comes full circle in the end where you're just like, oh wow, like what a story, true. Right? Yeah. And yeah, it's inspiring, to see these people as well, because you look at it and you go, well, he just started out making movies on his camcorder, I imagine, right? Like he started out quite basic, and so what we're doing here is no different, man. We're just creating it smaller spaces and smaller communities, but it's the same expression, it's that same passion, which is I love it, man. It's really like, even just being here.
You hit the nail on the head. I mean, a lot of these guys started small, they were very humble, but they became successful because they continued to do what they do because they loved it and it was their passion. So I think that's a really good point. A lot of us, we do all these things, hopefully it becomes the most world famous podcast, but we still do it because we love it. And we get so much satisfaction out of the journey of doing it. And I think that's a really good point for anybody that's in the creative space.
Definitely.
Just do it because you love it, and whatever happens after that is a bonus.
Do you think it's something, when we've got these things, do you think they'll naturally happen? Because I know something I ask myself, and I hear it from other people too, is kind of like, if you're passionate about something, it's going to manifest itself naturally. Like, you're not going to be able to keep yourself away from the space, but there's also something to be said, obviously, of being conscious with the work too, right? And saying, well, I'm going to plan, segment this time. Which do you fall in either one of the camps, or you do a bit of both? Like, what's your process?
I think I agree with you, man. I think a bit of both. Like, to take photography as an example, and this can be applied to any creative endeavor. I think, like, certain people have natural passions and natural talents, or areas of gravitation towards certain things, but you still have to develop them. You still have to take the time consciously to actually develop your skills in that area. You have to understand, if it's photography, you have to do lots of courses. You have to look at other great photographers' work. You have to practice. You have to go out there and push the boundaries of your own style and your own work. So I think, doing it because you love it and because you don't have a choice, you have to do it, is definitely part of it. But you also have to consciously understand that to grow, you have to develop your skills further and push yourself through your comfort zone. And that's more of a conscious process.
Kind of like a mix. It's nature and it's nurture. You're
nature versus nurture. Exactly.
Getting a bit of both worlds. Are you someone that has to set aside that time though and get like real conscientious? Because I know with my stuff, right, it's like learning about discipline and routines and regime. Because I am that creative, I'm very much like, I can just be like, fuck it, man, like, I'll record a podcast the next couple of months. It'll happen when it happens. We'll just get connected and I'll go, I'll reach out to Darren, that's right. But it's like, are you someone that rather, do you go like that sort of thing, or are you someone that will have like, okay, now we're going to be doing one podcast this week and one next week and one the week after, and I'm going to be working a bit more mechanically, I suppose, than I like to do naturally.
Yeah, I am. I'm like that. I'm quite systemized, and I'm quite, I'm very good. I'm very efficient and very organized in that respect. So I kind of like to have a rhythm or a system in place, and then it allows me to be creative within that system. It almost kind of frees you up even more, because when you take the guesswork out of it and you know that that's what you're doing, you don't waste any other energy thinking about all the other things that might have clouded your judgment or got in the way of focusing on that project. So when you know that once a week you're recording a podcast, it takes all the guesswork out of it, and you have more time and energy and creativity to actually apply to that podcast next week. So I find that, when you have a bit of a structure around your creativity, it actually helps you to be more creative, because you don't expend all this extra energy because you're a bit confused, or you're all over the shop and you're not quite sure what you're doing, and all that is just extra energy that is wasted.
Is that natural, or is that learnt for you?
I think that's natural for me, because I'm quite analytical as well. I'm kind of a bit of a mix, left brain, right brain, I think.
Yeah, good on you. See, my brain just glazes over once I start getting that on equal. I can do it, but it's just it's not a very meticulous way, which is kind of like what routine is. It's setting aside, and I go, I'm getting better. I am getting better. This is the year of planning. I actually got myself a little planner, which is actually I'm using it this year, man. I'm not just letting it collect dust with all the other books. We're getting there, mate.
And I like it. It's analog. It's actually a book. It's not digital.
Yeah, I love pen and paper, man. Like digital, I get caught up in the endless file stream of in this folder is January and the weekend. Yeah, I can lose myself in it, right? Flat out with the digital space, producing content rather than keeping all my notes and stuff on there too. Do you find because I know, so you're doing video format, you're doing photography, you're no doubt doing some sort of paperwork on the side as well for all these things, right?
Sure.
How do you find, because you said there was a transition between photography and these spaces, right? And you felt that sort of streamline. Do you find the same streamline process between all these different forms of content as well?
Yeah, I do. Like, I think, when you have a certain system in place for how you work, you can apply it to many other streams. So if I started off doing a lot of photography, I have a certain workflow and I have a certain way of working and a process. And I kind of use the same process when I'm working with audio or working with video or et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, like you kind of find your own rhythm and your own, system or workflow really. I think it's important. I think it's important to have some kind of a workflow or system because again, it takes the guesswork out of it and it allows you more space.
What does that look like for you? If you don't mind sharing, I mean, maybe you have your trade secrets.
Yeah,
I don't want to spill to your competitors, but yeah, what if you can share?
So I keep things real simple. I don't go and use the really complicated apps or complicated websites and whatnot. I keep it real simple. I use notepads on my iPhone. I use email templates. I do a lot of automation. So not so much digital automation, but if I'm going to write the same thing every time I send it to a podcast guest, I'll just write it once, I'll save it, and I'll just copy paste it. So I don't want to recreate the wheel every time.
Yeah.
So anything that I'm doing very regularly, I'll systemize it and have a folder that says scripts. And I'll have all my different things that I do, and I'll just copy and paste them for my next one. And so I'm trying to be as efficient as I can be, but I use very basic technology. I use my phone, I use email, I use notepads, digital. I don't have any whiz bang systems or workflows or CRMs or anything like that. They almost kind of slow me down because then you have to log in, find where you have to go. Like on an email, you just go to your folder, bang, it's right in front of you. So and you can do it on your phone when you're on the run as well. So I kind of like find my way to be as efficient as I can using technology, but not falling into the trap of just getting all this technology for technology's sake, and it just slows you down even further.
Complicate the process more than needs be, right?
Complicate things.
Yeah.
Keep it simple. Yeah. Keep it simple.
I agree.
But don't recreate the wheel. If you're going to do something more than once, copy and paste it, script it, automate it in some way. Even if it's a calendar invite, for example, like with my podcast, I will use Calendly, which is a great tool.
Yeah.
And my guests can sign up to a date. They automatically get the invite sent. It integrates with Zoom. It sends them the Zoom link. So there's a good example of using technology to really save time. So I just try and find what is going to work, but I don't want to get sucked into using stuff for the sake of it and just kind of take more time.
Yeah. Are you self-taught in all this as well? Because you got a lot of angles covered on it, man. You got the marketing side, you got the creative side. It's like, is that all self-taught? You just pick it up as you go, or?
Look, I watch a lot of people. I listen to a lot of people. I belong to a really great business network. If anybody's interested, it's a business network called BX Networking. And I've spoken to loads of great people, and I talk to a lot of them on my podcast as well. And I've learned so much from all my guests, about marketing and all these different tools, and I'm learning from other people. But I think if you just keep your eyes open and you have an open mind as to all, to welcome all these things, when you see them, you'll say, how can I use that? That might be good for me, or no, that's too hard. Forget about that. So, definitely. And I'm definitely asking people all the time, what's that? How do you use that? Can you show me? For sure. You can't know everything. You can't do everything.
Yeah, no, the questions, that's a brilliant part. That's what I've learned from too, right? But
Definitely,
even if it's a
for
question
sure.
to Google where it's like, how do I do
Yeah,
this thing? It's like, oh, there we go. Thank you, Google.
absolutely, man.
Yeah, yeah.
For sure.
No,
Because again, you waste more time. Why spend half an hour working out when I can say, Jaden, how do you do this? Oh, yeah, bang, 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 done.
And being a people person too, like I relate to that muchly, because it's like I'd
Yeah.
rather ask you and be like, we'll have you on here to be like, how are you doing these things, man? What's your process? Rather than me Googling top 10 ways to, facilitate podcast work. It's like, let me connect with you, like let's remember that
Absolutely,
we're
man.
humans, man, before
I
all
love
this
it.
other stuff. That's what comes first to me. And it's really why I started this thing, right? I remember years ago now, man, like it'd be 2017, I think. Well, it feels like
Nice.
decades, right? With
Wow.
everything that's happened, man.
Yeah.
But having a
Pre-COVID.
yeah, exactly right. This isn't
PC.
even COVID wasn't even a thought, man. We're just like, we're having fun. We're skipping in meadows, and I was on the phone to my good friend of a time, and we're having this really deep, meaningful conversation. Went for about an hour or so, and by the end of it, I thought, you know what, like we're sharing a lot of things here. It's a very intimate moment, but more so like it's so relatable to what you're going through, right? I'm like,
Oh, yeah.
maybe I could share this with people, right? Let me try to create some sort of platform I can do is right. And then that's how the podcast started, was essentially like, hey, let's sit down, let's chat, let's try to be open, authentic. And I try myself to do that in my life, but especially in this space, and create something that shows this human side of people, and it's something I found on your space too, being just sort of like, what are you about? Well, this is what I'm kind of about. Okay, like let me ask you some questions from that space. Yeah, like that's pretty much you're tailoring the podcast to these people specifically, and it makes people feel at home, right? And so for the viewer then too, they're going, this feels like a conversation. It feels like I'm sitting on my lounge chatting to Darren and Jaden. We're all having a mad chat, have a couple of laughs. It's a good
Absolutely.
space, huh?
Absolutely, man. And I love, the one thing I love about podcasting is I love having podcasts with a guest, because
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to just be talking about my own story every episode. How boring. I'd
Mm-hmm.
rather learn from you. I'd rather listen to you. I'd rather, have the audience experience a new perspective and learn from your story and on all
Mm-hmm.
my guest stories. So I love talking to guests, and I just love chatting about their journeys. And, we all learn so much, and, storytelling is as old as time. We all love a good story. We love to
Mm-hmm.
listen, and we love to hear about another person's journey, and
Mm-hmm.
we learn through that journey.
I think it's what makes us, well, one of the things, but one of the main things that makes us human, right? Because we have this
Yep.
ability to share like about emotions, and I did this and this happened to me and I feel
Yep.
this way. And like it's such a way of connecting to people too, man. Like stories can transcend most barriers, right? It's
So
yeah,
true.
it's brilliant, man. It's brilliant. Is it one of the reasons too, that because obviously like the podcast came later in the piece for you as well, like you said you did your pharmacy, then into your photography and these other areas, and then coaching obviously in there too. And then yeah, your podcast is sort of fairly, I mean, you're up to 180, I think now. It's about
Yeah, I
180 or
just
so.
did
So
yesterday my 180th episode. Very proud.
congratulations, man. That's
Thanks, man.
amazing. I think I'm sitting at like 28. You'd be lucky
Ah,
number
it's pretty
28. So it's
good. It's
like
still pretty good.
what's this thing of like your planning, man? I'm just going, one here, post-it notes all over the shop, right? But it's inspirational, man, because I go like, well, again, you got to start somewhere, right? You had your first episode too. The greats,
Absolutely.
Mark and Joe, they would have had their first episodes as well and gone, hey, let's just do it for the passion.
Definitely. And you learn so much as you go. When I look back at some of those
Mm.
old episodes, I cringe. I say, oh my God, that was terrible.
I'm
So
sure
you
you were
learn
fine.
as you go.
I'm sure you were fine. We're all our worst critic. I did the same thing
I
too,
say,
right? Going
turn
like,
it off, turn it off,
yeah.
turn it off. But yeah, I mean, look, I love podcasting also because it's just a great way to share content with your audience, but it's fun, and it can be a lot of value as well. If people are into listening to longer form content, because not everybody has time to sit and listen to a 45-minute interview or an hour interview. But if you do, it can be incredibly valuable for another person, and you're really giving back to the world some really cool content. It's not just your own promotional messages all day long every day.
Exactly right. It's informative. It can be educational, but
Yeah.
it's most of the part it's like entertaining, right? There's some form of
Yeah,
entertainment about it to be
definitely.
involved. Yeah, for sure. I don't know. Do a lot of driving, right? And so when you're driving, you chuck either music on, or it's a podcast or an audio book or
Me
something
too.
like that. Yeah.
Yep. Me too.
But
I listen to
I
audiobooks and podcasts all the time. I'm
yeah,
always
my
looking for
man.
new ones.
Oh man, I don't know if I have a few. It's been like sort of hit and miss. Again, my go-to is usually YouTube. I'll just like
Yep.
go through recommended. Oh, this sounds really interesting. Audio book about, you know, the end of the world or something like that, right? Or
Nice.
these different deeper, whatever it's about. Just an example, but
Yep.
yeah,
I'll give
yeah.
everybody a quick tip. If anybody wants to listen to a fantastic audiobook, one of the best ones I've listened to lately
Mhm.
is the memoirs from Will Smith. It's called Will.
Ah,
And it's
right.
absolutely, it's about 8.5 hours long. No, my mistake. It's probably about 16 hours. It's like double the size of any other audiobook. And it's fantastic.
Yeah. What's just his life story from go to
Just
woe?
life story, how he became who he became. And you hear, you know, again, he's very creative and very artistic, but he also is quite smart as a businessman. And he put a system in place and a team in place to help him get to where he wanted to go. It's a fascinating listen.
Is this all pre-Bel Air? Because that's what the earliest memory I can have of him is like that's what he was doing, right? He would have been
Even
young, but
before he was a rapper.
wow.
Before Bel Air, he was a rapper. He was the Fresh Prince, and him and DJ Jazzy Jeff.
That's right. Yeah, that's
and
right.
then all the way to becoming one of the biggest movie stars ever. Like phenomenal story.
Wow. Well,
Very
I'll have to chuck on a list. I've got one up there somewhere that you can see. I think it's just there, I think somewhere. Arnold Schwarzenegger,
yeah.
you see his face there. You know, he's one of those people too that like has a story, man. You know, just incredible motivation and drive and passion and just showed up and said, well, no, this is what I'm doing. Like this is gonna happen. And it's like that story that everyone tells, like, oh, he said these 5 things when he was younger. He's gonna be the movie star, he's gonna be a politician, etc., etc. And planning for success and manifesting it. It's inspiring.
It is. I mean, he's incredible. What a story. Incredible.
Do you have any favorites from your time in the past? I mean, obviously not me, right? You know, you can't just
your episode was fantastic.
Thanks, mate. But do you have any or even favorite like types of guests? You know, because you do have a lot of those business marketing types. Do you enjoy those, or do you enjoy more just the back and forths?
I like everything. You know, again, I like talking about, and that's the other thing about my podcast. It's not one genre, which a lot of people might find frustrating because I'm jumping around from one thing to another. But I like that. You know, it's more of a variety show than a particular genre. Because one day I'm talking to something about arts, one day I'm talking about film, one day I'm talking about business, one day I'm talking about marketing, one day I'm talking about. Yesterday I had a fantastic episode. A lovely lady by the name of Silvana Patrick, and she's a personal stylist. We were talking about styling yourself for confidence and success, and it was fantastic. You know. So all sorts of great guests, and I love just talking to everybody and learning different things from everybody.
Awesome. That's awesome. I think I'm gonna have to check that one out myself.
Yeah, check that out. It's really good. She's really interesting. Yeah.
That's one thing I like about your podcast specifically too. I mean, I'm a man, as going on your podcast, we talked about variety for most of it, right? So you're definitely preaching to the choir when it comes to having a wide range of interests. And it's cool to go to a same platform, but because you're kind of keeping the consistent you are the consistency of it. It's your style, Darren. It's your podcast, and you're bringing your energy to that. But then getting all these different, textures or flavors on top of that, and going, okay, nice. Like you say, film or it's music or it's marketing, but it's still you doing it too, right? So you're giving, again, that bit of both, man. I absolutely love it, right?
Yeah, I love it. The yin and the yang.
That's it, man. That's it. It's exactly what I'm trying to do here too, man. To try keep that consistency, which it's probably the harder part for me rather than the variety, because I'll dive headfirst into the chaos, and then when it comes to order, I say, we'll plan it. We'll plan tomorrow. It was the famous thing.
That's not necessarily a bad thing either. Like if you are that way inclined and you're that passionate, then dive in. Express all of it. Do it all. Record it all. And then go to a phase later on of sorting it out and editing it and putting it together. Like you can work, as long as you know your own style, you can put a system in place that suits your style.
That's a good point, man. That's a very good point. I think my fear for that is like I'd create so much content and then it'd just build up until I have like a terabyte full of stuff, because I've got stuff there now where I'm like, oh, I'll go through that, and then I start sorting through it. I'm like, tomorrow's issue,
Or then you get yourself a VA or something.
Maybe
to help you sort through this stuff, so you don't get lost in all this content.
It seems impossible for me to think of like, hey, I could bring someone on to like help with that. So I was thinking about it of all times today, when it was like I'm chatting to a friend who's got a business as well, and she fairly new into the space of her business too, but she's brought someone on to help with those type of tasks, and it's freed up a lot of her time, and it's actually playing to this employee's strengths as well, right? So she's in a position that's going to facilitate better efficiency for the business, and so I'm going, well, I love doing the podcast. I sit down, record it. Yes, that's my bang. But then to go back, scrub through it, clip it all, I'm kind of like, get to it when I get to it,
get
man.
someone to help you. That's perfect.
Yeah. Hopefully, this could be the year for it, man. I'm gonna start putting my eggs together, collect all my poker winnings, and see if someone will work for it up.
Buy a boat in the Bahamas, and off you go.
Fingers crossed, man. Fingers crossed. Stranger things, right? Stranger things. I'm sure.
You never know.
Yeah. Listen to some of these stories. One that comes to mind too is Kevin Hart, right? He's a real rags to riches kind of guy. The Rock Johnson as well. He was a real rags to riches story. So it's like Conor McGregor, I don't know if you follow the UFC, but he was a plumber, and then Ed Sheeran. There's so many people that are just like, they just start and they're like, you know what, this is my thing, I'm gonna do it, and then eventually you never see what happens behind the scenes, right? I imagine they're just like they're pumping, and that's the side that doesn't get shown. And it's the place I'm at now, where it's like, you want this thing, you've got to work for it, right? Work towards the employee, work towards the the next step, and that's where I find myself now, is discipline. The discipline, the structure, incorporating that, engaging with that, and then from there on, who bloody knows, right? Roll the dice and fingers crossed. Still, it all comes down to life at the end of the day, right? But
I agree, man. And you're right. I mean, everybody thinks of overnight success. There's no such thing as overnight success. These guys and girls have been, putting in the time, the hard yards for decades, and then all of a sudden they pop, and they're an overnight success. But nobody tells the story of how they started and what they had to do to get there.
Was Will Smith the same as that as well? Was he very much?
To a degree, Like he was according to the book, he was, a very successful rapper, and then all of a sudden, his era kind of ended, and he couldn't get a job, he couldn't get any work, and he was trying to work out what to do, and he ended up stumbling onto someone who introduced him to Quincy Jones, and that's where the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air came about, and then his TV career kicked off, and then the movies came, and so it's all just synchronicity and chance, and he went through lulls as well, and then he was on top. So it's a fantastic story, because it shows you in detail, what these guys go through, and it kind of teaches you that you have to be in it for the long term. Don't get disheartened by, a short-term occurrence. Stick with it, and things pick up again. So it's a great story. It's a really inspirational journey, and a really good audiobook, really well written.
Yeah, and
he narrates it as well, so you can imagine it's fantastic.
That's beautiful. I love his voice. It's something that I think we all relate to as well, right? In some sort of way, this sort of long stretch, we all in this hustle and bustle era going, today, immediate, right? I want my fast food now. I want it hot, and I want my TV show.
We're in that society. We want everything now. We want everything's that automatic society. We're impatient, but that's just not how things work.
And then for my journey there comes in the passion, right? Because even though this scheduling side of it is becoming a part of it now, it is kind of like, for all those years I've been doing the podcasting, I'm still here back doing it today, right? And so there's something speaking to me about it there. It's like, well, I've had breaks off of it, right? Where I've gone to do different things and fell out of love with it for, going, it's too bloody hard, it's not being what I want it to be, but I always come back to it. And that's that little passion piece that I think.
Yeah. So there's something there, obviously, that
that
is resonating with you. So, it's important to find your way to manage it and work it through and express it, because there's some magic there.
And I think everyone's got, it might not be podcasting, right? But everyone's got something like that in their I don't know, soul, psyche, whatever you want to call it, that like is going to be burning with desire at all points in their life, right? Yeah.
Could be anything. I think we all have. I think everybody's creative, and it's just about understanding what you're aligned with and developing it a little bit. Taking a bit of time to nourish it. I think, everybody, can do that. It's just, you have to get in touch with what it is that lights you up.
And then it's just that process, like you say, just put, nourishing, just water the plant. Just plant.
Exactly.
You're not going to grow a tree overnight, are you? Even
That's
though
right. Exactly.
Right? So give
Start
it
off with a couple of leaves.
That's it.
Yeah, a couple of branches. It takes time.
That's it. Do you have any plants or seeds that you've recently planted, mate, that you're sort of going, well, I'm starting this new thing now in your life?
Not really. Actually, no. I think I'm pretty much maxed out. I don't have any more time.
Going to say that is a long rap sheet, man. Like I said, so it's like,
as much as I would potentially maybe could think of something, I don't think I've got any more time. So I'll have to see what happens.
Well, it's the thing with older projects too, or I call them older in the sense that you've discovered them previously, but you're still doing new things in these spaces too, right? I mean, new podcasts is new guests, new ways of marketing those podcasts, new clients in the coaching space. There's always newness there. Is there any new insights or new ways of doing things that you're thinking like, okay, 2022, what's the year of for you, Darren? Is it the year of just continuing, like you said, just keep it going, or is there something else?
Yeah, good question, man. You know what? It's for me, I've been thinking about this the last couple of weeks after the break, and I think for me, it's continue to do what I do and what I love to do, but try not to let it get too overwhelming and not to let it overtake me. Try and find a bit more of a balance, and not have to be going crazy responding to emails and messaging and doing it, all these, getting sucked up into this whole rhythm of technology and instant gratification, because all you do is just wipe yourself out. You're exhausted. You get up in the morning and you do it all again. And where's the quality of life?
Yeah.
So I think there's got to be a little bit of a bit more awareness, I hope, around taking a bit of time out to say, just do what I enjoy doing and why I enjoy doing it. Don't just get sucked into this rhythm blindly and let everybody and everything just drag you in a million directions. Because otherwise you turn around and you say, what the hell am I doing?
Yeah. And you can almost step away from the things that you once found enjoyable because you're just like, where's the joy in here anymore? It's still there, but it's obviously it gets clouded by all these things on top. And I think as creatives too, you hit a really good point there, because it is like we're doing something we enjoy, but these things still take work and energy, right? And so we constantly, like, we can really lose ourselves in the work, man, to go like, this is just what I'm doing 24/7, and you burn yourself out, right? I've been prey to it as well, man. Do you have any like a self-care routine or anything like that? You say like photography, is it something that you do in your off time as well, or is it kind of like, that's work for me, man, I just want to sit back and like meditate or something like that?
Good question. What works for me is I've kind of over the last few years also started a rhythm of waking up much earlier. So I'm up at like 5:30 every morning.
My man.
And I used to be a night person. I used to be up, just get up till 12, 1 o'clock watching movies and whatever else, and I totally changed it. And I get up at 5:30 every morning and I do a little bit of admin. I listen to a podcast, I listen to an audiobook, I have a coffee, I watch some YouTube stuff, and those 2-3 hours in the morning while I'm just slowly getting my day set up is my favorite time of the day. I actually enjoy going to bed a bit earlier so I can get up and have those few hours in the morning because they're uninterrupted. Everybody's still asleep. There's no messages coming through. There's no emails that I have to respond to. I'm not reacting to anything. It's totally proactive and it's my time.
That's beautiful.
I love it. I just really, and then I might go for a quick run or something, or a few days a week, and then I'm at my desk and I'm reacting to everything that I have to do. But those few hours in the morning are just gold for me.
I love that, man. What's your secret? If there's a secret, please tell me, Darren, because I know that's something.
That's it, man. Get up early.
Just do it. Well, my alarm goes off and I go, tomorrow, man. I feel like I need this sleep, right? I need it, and then 9 o'clock rolls around and you're like, damn, one of these days. I got in a good habit of it for a while, but then fell out of it just as quickly, man. Had one late night that led to two, and then I am a night owl, so I really relate to that. Where it's
I used to be as well. But the key is like when you do this over like 3 to 4 months, you start to really enjoy it, and then you can't go back. You have to set that habit. It takes a good few months to set that habit.
How was the first day for you? Was it like, did you just go, oh, well, I'm going to bed late tonight, but you know what? I'm still going to get up and just no excuse, just set the
No
alarm.
excuse. Get
How
up.
did you get up though, man? Like, did you just
I
shock
said, that's
yourself?
it. I'm doing it.
You got that willpower, bro. Respect, man.
That's
Respect.
it. But I'll send you a little. I'll send you a recording of my voice saying, "Jaden, get up."
Yeah. Just
Put it on
blare from the speakers.
Put it on your alarms. Like, Darren, shut up.
Couple that with like I'll pay someone. Don't worry about the clipping. I'll pay someone to get a wet flannel and just come in and just
That's right. Just
hammer me until I get up.
get up.
Oh, one of these days.
I really enjoy that time. It's become my meditation time. It's my time. You know, I get more space and and then I'm set up for the whole day rather than just getting up and being on the back foot and reacting to the rest of the day and always, not finding the surface. So this way you're top of the game. You're above the surface before you start.
Yeah. You've started in control.
You're in control of your day rather than the day just controlling you.
Yeah.
And it's such a good point. Yeah. I love it.
I've heard so many people say so many similar things too, right? That like just this idea of creating that time in the morning for yourself, whatever it is you choose to do, but making it like, you're getting up though, like you said, there's that serenity of like, everyone else is asleep. Quiet. I'm here, I'm doing this, and I want to, but like every time 6 o'clock rolls around, I'm like, nah, a couple of hours, man. I'm just gonna drag myself out of bed one day and ride the wave.
5:30.
I'll set an alarm after this. I'm gonna do it, man. I'm gonna try to do it anyway, right?
I'm gonna ring you tomorrow morning, 5:30.
Do it, man. That'd be good for me. It'd be a good conversation. Then I'll actually wake up, right? If anything's gonna get me going, I'll be chatting. That's awesome. Respect, man. Respect.
I love it, man.
Is there anything that you wanted to talk about specifically, my friend? I usually open up towards the end and just go, hey, man, like, is there anything you saw, a movie, or you've shared a little bit of like books and stuff you read too, but if there's anything you want to share, speak now or forever hold your peace.
Oh, man, I think it's good for everybody to just explore all these great new mediums that are out there because, we can all learn so much and we can all get so much joy out of all this amazing content that people are providing and putting into the world. And there's so many different styles and varieties, and you can just find those things that resonate with you. So whether it's a podcast, whether it's an audiobook, whether it's a YouTube channel, whether it's a normal book, whether it's a movie, whatever. So I think a documentary, whatever. There's so much great content out there just to, talk about content. And that's where we're at. This is the culture now of content creation.
Yeah.
This is the content creation era. We're all creating content for benefit of the world, and people just have to explore and find what resonates with them, and they can get so much joy out of it. So I think it's really good to get a bit of time, take time to do that, and also take time to set out for you to enjoy it. Whenever it is that works for you, if it's during lunchtime, if it's early in the morning, if it's at nighttime, after you put your kids to bed or whatever, carve out half an hour for you to just enjoy what everybody's putting out there, and it enrich your lives.
Start exploring what it is that you want to put out there yourself then,
exactly.
Right? Potentially.
And you never know where that will lead.
Look at where we are right now, huh?
Look at that, man. Absolutely. Look at us.
That's it.
So true. So true.
Well, appreciate you coming on, Darren. It's been an amazing chat, mate. I thought it would be.
Thank you, Jaden.
Never had a doubt
You're
in
a
my
legend.
mind. You have to come back as well, and I'll read a few more books. You can listen to a few more docos, and we'll share some more inspiring stories from our own life. But absolute pleasure, mate.
Love that.
Looking forward to it, my friend.
I would love that, man. And I look forward to ringing you tomorrow at 5:30 a.m.
Please actually do, right? I'm not even joking when I say that. I know it might sound weird, like, oh, do I have to read? If you can, do it, man, because it's probably the only way I'll fucking get up at that time, bro. If you get to it, I'll be appreciative, man. I mean, I probably won't sound appreciative. I'll probably be like,
Darren, I was just joking. Just leave me alone.
Who is this again? Darren, who? Oh, podcast. Yeah, I think so. It's 5:30.
Oh, yeah. All right, I'm getting up.
That's it. Once you're up, right? Then you're good. But it's just that first couple of minutes. But if you don't do that, I'm gonna reach out to a few people and just be saying, hey, just call me tomorrow. Just call 5:30 if you're up. I know a few early birds as well. Just call me. And that's all. That'll probably get this ball rolling, right? Be careful. I don't go, yeah, okay. No. I can't do that. I'll feel accountable if it's someone else, right? If it's me, I'll just go, it doesn't matter.
Definitely.
But I've told you. Anyway, man, really do appreciate it.
Legend. Thank you, Jaden. Real appreciate it. All the guests out there, thanks for listening to us. crazy people just blabber on, but I hope you had as much fun as we did.
Until next time, my brother.
See you guys.
Thanks, brother.